there's a difference between a gay guy and a booty bandit, right?
Okay.
So in there, like, you're not like me. I didn't talk to any of them because I don't want to be labeled that. And when you're talking to them, somebody sees that and they're like, "Oh man, that white boy likes it like that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't fuck with them when I was in there. But in prison, you have gay dudes that are like feminine, like paint their nails and put Skittle like for blush and shit. They moved one of those into the dorm. And when they do that, man, like, you'll be in a dorm and like we'll all be hanging out, playing poker, playing cards, and everyone will be like, oh, all convict shit. But then when one of those dudes get moved into the dorm, all of a sudden that tough guy gangster tatted up is like over on the dude's bunk sitting down, having long talks with him. And there's literally like 5 dudes that are trying to do this because they're trying to get her. They call it a her in there.
Right.
And you watch this go on. Well, my bunkie, the booty bandit, you already know, like, he's already on that. So he's loving this. So he's now on the bunk trying to get with the punk. And they would wake up on Saturday morning. This is kind of where it started with that, me fighting that dude. So he was bringing his friends over to his bunk, and they were all chilling, talking about, they would be like, he ain't going to get her, I'm going to get her. And they would like talk about like how they're going to finesse the gay dude to give it up, right? So on Saturday, they would all wake up, like 4 or 5 of them, and they would, on Saturdays, they give you coffee cake in prison, right? Mm-hmm. So they would all go to the chow hall to get the coffee cake, not eat it, bring it back, and see who could get it to the punk first, because then they would think like they won something. It was like on that type of level, like Predator type shit.
Oh my God.
So they're doing this. I'm watching all his friends talk about it. And like when you're on your bunk and like you're trying to just like escape from everybody. And now I got like the gay boy gangsters over here, like talking about how they're going to, you know, get this punk.
Oh my God, dude.
That's really like where I was like, this is going to happen, because he was already disrespecting me from having that shit going on where I'm trying to sleep, and the fact of just how he is. So it was like, but what did do it was we were in master roster count. They come in and you have to sit up on your bunk and read off your DC number as they walk through the dorm, every inmates, and they're counting. So when they get done counting the dorm, they'll say relax, and you can lay back on your bunk and kind of hang out for like 10 minutes until the Tallahassee will clear count, right? So then we can all get up and do everything. So there was this lady that worked the dorm, and like in there's gunners. I don't know if your audience or you knows what that is. So a gunner is if they move a female officer into the officer station and she's in there and she works a night shift, the lights in prison are out. When I was in, I think 10 or 11, I forget the exact.
Oh no, is this when the guys like they wait for the women to walk by and they start jacking off?
Yeah, bro.
Oh my God.
Yeah, or like they do it any which way. Like you literally will get up at 10 or 11 when the lights are out, and you'll go to the water fountain in the day room, and dude is literally, the water fountain's like right here and the officer station's like right here. So he's just standing there with his shit out, jacking his dick to her, and she's just sitting there watching it and likes it. That, like, some of them like it. It's freaking crazy. But a lot of them don't, and that's where you can get charged and shit for that. You go to confinement and all that shit, and they torture you. So this dude, right, he has all these like punks going on over near my bunk, and finally we're in master roster that night, and this officer they all like to gun down when she worked was working. So instead of waiting until we clear count, I had rolled over to face the wall to take a nap, right? Like during the 10-minute, like little cat nap. So I hear like commotion, like laughing and all this shit going on. So I roll back over, and this dude's literally on the bunk, butt ass naked, jacking his dick while we're all sitting in master roster. He's gunning the lady through the window of the officer station. Like, she's not even looking at him. Like, she's like turned around, and he's just like, oh, she's an eater dog. She finna get it. And then he would just start. So I roll over and wake up to this. So, which is really like disrespectful, you know, to do to somebody in prison. And so I didn't say anything. I just put my shoes on, stood up, and I just took off on him, and we started fighting. And we were fighting for like a good minute. And in there, like a minute's a pretty long fight, you know, really anywhere.
Was he fighting back?
Yeah, we were fighting.
This
bro.
naked guy with a boner?
Well, he had his boxers on at this point.
Oh, okay.
But I think they ended up fucking, because we were on the ground, like, fighting, and, like, it ended up going to the ground. That's when we got sprayed by the mace. So they all come in, they handcuffed us, they take us to the shower, we had mace and shit. He's lumped up, right, bleeding out of his eye. So they take him to medical to, like, get stitched up and shit, and they're taking me to confinement. They literally just walk you from whatever dorm you're in across the compound. There's a confinement wing where all the people go to the box. And so the warden happened to be making rounds on the prison that night. As I'm walking out, you know, I'm fucking got his blood on me. I got mace, which is another thing. You don't want to fight like booty bandits or people like that because a lot of them have AIDS. So that's why a lot of people don't like do shit to them.
You don't want to get their blood on you.
Yeah, you don't want to get that antibody karate. So I'm walking across the compound. The warden is like doing his walks through the compound and shit. And he comes over to the two officers that are walking me, you know, my hands behind my back. And he's like, so he's like, what happened? And I was like fucking pissed because now I know I'm going to the box. You know, it's winter. I'm going to be fucking cold. So I was like, dude, listen, the dude was gunning next to me and I'm not living like that. I don't respect that. So I did what I had to do. And he's like, are you AB? Like thinking I was an Aryan brother or some shit.
Oh.
So I was like, no, man, I'm a neutron. Like I'm solo. And he's like, all right. So you could tell like they were like, that's what's up. You see what I'm saying? Like the warden kind of like you're hearing them be like, yeah, bro, he got him decent. Like they knew this dude. So, and everybody knew him. So when
he was a problem. He was like a constant problem.
Yeah. And like everybody knew about that fight because everybody knew of him and how he was, and then nobody really knew of me. It was just like the white boy that beat Dirt's ass. You know what I mean? So I get into confinement. I'm in my cell, and they bring him from medical into the confinement wing. And right when he gets in, like the officers, I guess, had like said some shit to other inmates or whatever. And so when he walks in, they're like, "Oh, you let that white boy beat your ass." So now they're like booing the whole situation up again. So I'm like, man, like I'm going to do, 50, 60 days in the box. I think it's 30 and I sat in there for a little while too, waiting to go to DR court. But now I'm going to get out and I'm going to have to go right back in because there's no way this dude is going to let this be known. You know what I mean? Like,
he's going to fight you again or try to stab you or something.
Yeah. And so I think I did like, I forget how many days, but I was back in confinement, and that is when I saw how the officers really are. And like when I saw that is really when I was like, I laid down that night after all that shit had happened, what they did. And I was just like, bro, like I could not go home. And it doesn't have to be like a gang thing or anything like that. Like they were literally killing people there. Like it's in the paper and everything. And
just instigating situations and shit.
They would definitely do that. But what they did was they targeted the gunners. So when you go to confinement and you go for gunning, they put a 1-9 on your door. And they do that for like each charge. And they have your charges when you're being released, your pictures all on your door, right? The two cellies got their pictures on it. So like they would see the 1-9 on the dude's door and they would like instigate him and talk shit and be like, the officers would do that and sell them out. And then one day, like there's a captain in Florida who's usually in charge of like 10 officers or I don't know, but they're like the upper dudes in the system, right? They wear a white shirt. So I guess the gunner had said something to one of the officers when they were messing with him, right? And the captain came in and he literally just walked in the middle of the dorm, and there's all cells going down here, and then there's a top tier where they go up top. So there's 2 levels. And he stood in the middle of the dorm. At first he told us all to get off our windows, and then he just said, if y'all want to gun my white women, get your ass on the door. Like he was begging somebody to like say, fuck you, Sar, or fuck you, Cap. You know what I'm saying? And there's always one motherfucker in there that'll be that dude. Like no matter what. So this dude was like, fuck you, da-da-da-da-da. And he starts selling them out through the door, right? So the captain and like 3 officers go over to this dude's cell. Now they open his flap. He's still talking shit. And they're supposed to turn on back then it was a handheld camcorder. And when an inmate was bucking, they call it bucking, like when you're kicking the door, screaming. So they would turn the camera on and they would have to record what was going down as they extracted the inmate from the cell to make sure, like, you know, they didn't break the law.
Right.
So what they do is they would literally have the camera guy would be behind 2 other officers. They go over to the door with the camera off, talk a bunch of shit to this inmate, get him going crazy, and then boom, they turn the camera on and they're like, inmate, stop bucking, stop. Like they make it seem like he just started to go crazy for no fucking reason, and they're trying to get him to calm down. So they sprayed this dude through the food flap with Black Jesus is what it was back then. I think they took it out, but it was like a strong ass OC spray that, like, if we sprayed it in the front parking lot or like 50 yards away, like we would be like choking. That's how powerful it was. Like in confinement, it would come through the vents in the cell. So if dude upstairs got sprayed, the air, the return vent would bring it into all the other cells. So you're literally like 10 cells away and you have to take your shirt off and you wet it a little bit and you like mask your face to kind of stop from the shit getting in your nose.
Jesus.
So this dude's in the cell. After they spray you, they're supposed to take you out and put you in a shower because that shit's that powerful. Like it needs to get off you. So they didn't do that with him, man. They just left him in there for like an hour. And that stuff not only gets on your eyes, it gets on anything it touches. So like your hands will be burning just from getting the, like, you know, the residue on you. And he was literally like screaming for his mom. Like that's how much like he was like going through it in there. And that's really when I was like, because these are hard, like these aren't no bitches, you know what I'm saying? And when you hear a grown man and know like there's nothing he can do to control this situation, it's totally out of his hands. Like he is literally at the mercy of whatever they want to do to him. So they did that. He's screaming. He finally like calmed down from screaming, but he couldn't breathe. So that's probably why he couldn't scream. And they ended up having to go in on a stretcher and get him out of there. And the dude ended up dying like a couple days later or some shit, we found out. Damn. I don't know if that was true because that's through like, you know, the inmate telephone type shit.